Welcome to Friday Heavy, your guide to the world of aggressive and abrasive and loud music, brought to you by the individuals behind Tune Dig. We are, as always, and planning to stay, Cliff.
In this dimension, I'm Kyle.
When I'm here. Each episode, we cover one brand new release and why we think it'll be worth a spin, because there's a ton of heavy music out there, and it's not all awesome. A lot of it's awesome. And we like to bring at least one to your attention every week that's brand new, that's going to be awesome to listen to, and we'll be hearing it for the first time along with you. We also do one playlist that we've curated to explore a heavy subgenre or an artist or a scene. And then lastly, and importantly, we do one organization covering critical culture impacting work in their community, so that you can pay attention to the things going on around you, support the people who are already doing important work, and put all that good energy to use. So let's get into it. We're going to flip stuff around this week because Kyle is going to give us a lot more from new releases. What's up, dude?
A little bit different territory this week because
Yeah.
I made the pick. Normally, I look to you to make the pick as our resident heavy guru. So this week, we're going definitely less hard, but still quite heavy. This week is Fever Fantasy, the new record by Sasquatch. If you don't know Sasquatch, they are a hard rock power trio from Los Angeles. It's been around 20 plus years. This is their sixth studio album and their first since 2007's acclaimed record Maneuvers. Fever Fantasy was actually recorded in late 2019. Stop me if you've heard this story before from another band you love. So this actually winds up being the band's first album in 5 years. They said they didn't want to throw the tunes out there without being able to support them in the right way, which makes sense and we appreciate. And in a fashion that will let you get to know this band really quickly in a sentence, they said, "We can't wait to hang with old friends and new on the road for this album."
I bet they mean that sincerely.
I bet they do.
Just straightforward.
Just get in the van and try to love someone.
The sincerity of this whole music scene blows my mind.
I know. They have been called an institution among fuzzheads and those willing to groove. Their deal is modernizing classic rock without aping it, like Greta Van shite. In their bio, I thought this was great. They said they tend to sip on influences from 70s metal, rock, and psychedelia. Their songwriting approach is clear-cut. Keep the focus on the hook. Don't bore us, get to the chorus. They sip on influences. I like, even the thing is about partying.
I make scissor with my influences. I drop Skittles in the bottom.
The Stooges, 1969, is the purple Jolly Rancher at the bottom of this cup. The site, the Obelisk, for those of you who may be familiar, describe them as raw rock for rockers. I'm giving you all these descriptors so that I'm not giving you the descriptor stoner rock.
That's not good enough for almost anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
North magnet to North magnet with me in that term. You know, it's such a fine line with this type of music. I've always felt like, as somebody who really loves this music, and we were talking about before we started recording, kind of a scholar of this type of music, I've always felt like there were so many people who were into this music that didn't get it, of the people who like don't make it. There are lots of sites like the Obelisk on paper, but not in spirit, that butt right up against the worst kind of obnoxious nerddom, you know, like the Star Trek metalheads that try to collect a subculture and own it like a Funko doll. That I think is, when I've talked about genre descriptors on other episodes of Friday Heavy, that's why I hate it, because it creates dividing lines and it commoditizes and it separates the art from the commerce. And it's very much not in the spirit of a band like Sasquatch, who's just like, man, just show up, grab a brew, smoke a little something, grab you a burger over there. We got burgers on the grill and hang out.
Most bands with that attitude are terrible, though, and Sasquatch rips.
That's true. There was a short-lived festival put on by Brant Bjort from Caius and some other folks in the Palm Desert where Caius and some of those other bands originated, called Stoned and Dusted. And it filtered out all of the bands like that suck into the best of the best for 3 or 4 years. So this scene at its best is like the purest and greatest musical thing in the world to me. But getting back to this record, the first thing you're going to see is super rad, colorful artwork. There's usually a great connection between visual art and other scenes like skateboarding and, you know, other crafts with this music. So Ian Permana did this artwork, pretty prominent artist in his own right. They have released a lead-off single for this record called It Lies Beyond the Bay. It's the album opener. We're going to hear that now. Yeah, so you started headbanging in the silence of this room. But it's that compelling, right?
Yep.
It's just like, you know what it is. And so that's straight ahead Sasquatch. That's what you like. Big fuzzed out riff, big drums, some killer ripping soloing. They also can slow it down and space it out, like on Ivy a little later in the record, where they introduce some Hammond organ and a little more space and a little more like When It Gets to Be Nighttime out at the generator party.
All right, those are sick. I love this. Thank you, Kyle, for taking us on our first foray into not stoner rock. Sasquatch is awesome. I love that we're able to talk about all this different heavy music and bring people into these different subgenres and weird cultures and everything else. If we're telling you about a release or an artist, go explore everything that catches your attention about it that you like, because there's so much to discover. So check out Fever Fantasy from Sasquatch, out today on Mad Oak Records. As always, go listen to it however you want, stream it however you want. It almost literally doesn't matter, because what you're going to do is send the band your money after that, because the streams don't, right? So go to shows. Sasquatch looks like they're on tour this July and August, which is awesome. Go see a good show, make a friend, or don't. Go by yourself. That'd be cool too. Grab some merch, or as we always like to say, just, ask them if you can send them money directly.
What's your Venmo,
cool
bro?
Yeah. So, cash app your favorite non-stoner band. So, awesome new type of release, especially, but all within that big, heavy meta genre that we like pulling together. So, we've talked about that new release. Now, Kyle, you usually take whatever new release I've kind of pushed in your general direction and used it to prompt for whatever playlist you managed to put together, which is always awesome. But you just ran a straight through line. So, what did we end up doing on this one? Because this is... I don't know how to relay how in your lane this is. So, tell us about your masterclass after I make the joke that it's 69 songs long.
First of all, I barely blinked and took a breath, and it was 60 songs, and I was like, well, might as well go where it needs to go.
Let's add one more. Now we're at 60.
I describe this playlist as a group of songs that are like if putting on a leather jacket had the same effect as Jim Carrey putting on the mask. just pure biker id released. The filter was, would they listen to it at a biker clubhouse? Or would this play on an episode of Sons of Anarchy? Or would they let this band actually physically play at Pappy and Harriet's? And if one of those three things wasn't true, it didn't pass the cool test. We have joked about it a little already. I laugh at all the hand wringing around whether metal and extreme music are negative influences. Like, I love that I could listen to a band like Decapitated, like we did last episode, and be like, all right, time to go to Home Depot. Let's have a great morning. But this kind of music actually makes me want to do bad things. Like, this releases my worst, darkest Viking instincts. So if you hear the fuzz coming out of my Volkswagen sedan, my own little boogie van, then please steer clear.
It does make you like a little bit more impatient for anyone in the crosswalk. Get out of the way.
That's right. And I'm 6'4", 230. So when I get to strutting to music like this, watch out. As always, I strove to avoid genre trappings or any bands that feel also ran. There's a lot of bands that are like, what if we tried to be Caius, or what if we tried to be Fu Manchu? And none of that is on here. Like, we're just trying to be something else. The most important thing with all of these bands is that they are the only one. It's like, this is the scene that taught me how important that was. I also had some subconscious guardrails against too heavy. So no straight up sludge, no Primitive Man. We have that playlist if you want it. It will brutalize your senses. And also not too chill. So no Primitive Man, no Yawning Man. Those were the two guardrails on either end. We hope you enjoy. It's like 5 hours long, so it'll last you for a whole Route 66 road trip from the Grand Canyon to Joshua Tree.
This playlist also, for real, doubles as a list of the bands with the best merch on planet Earth.
That's true.
Like, seriously, like Earthless is in here, but there's also a run at the top that I loved with the Red Fang and Torch right next to each other.
Really good Red Fang, a Torch bonus track that I joined the Volcom 7-inch club to get a 45 of, and then a song with a band from Australia called the Black Armada that they sent to Nick Oliveri, and he did vocals on, and they called it Up and Down Under, and it's super sick. And then we go into an anti-cop jail song from Wilmington, North Carolina's Weed Eater, from a record that also features a totally earnest tribute to Dale Earnhardt. So we love this world a lot. The same way that Cliff has pulled me into the decapitated death metal world and made a believer out of me. I've been pulling Cliff into this world since we were baseball umpires in high school. And I was like, what's up? Want to smoke weed out of a Sprite can? And he was like, not right now. It's the morning.
Things have changed in recent years. All right. So as always, we've got that new release linked up along with the playlist at tunedig.com and on our social and all that stuff, so you can grab it and make sure you can spin this heckin' playlist, dude. This is awesome. So in our last section here, where we talk about an organization doing impactful work in their community, it's America and the time is right now, so everything is always serious and a little bit worse than it was the last time we checked in with each other. But we're going to try, as always, to confront what we need to confront, but do it with an angle towards how can we focus on what actually needs to be done and contribute towards long-term solutions. So yeah, if you have lived in America, or even if you haven't at this point, because I'm sure you're hearing about it, you've probably been thinking and hearing about guns in recent weeks again. And the long-term effects of pandering to weapons manufacturers and generally heartless people continually comes home to roost in our generations. We get to be alive right now. It's a literal nightmare.
It's a waking nightmare.
Just horrendous. Truly bad. So what we're going to do, okay, what we're going to do is take the stance today, in which I personally believe anyway, okay? There's no changing of hearts and minds to be done around this, okay? So I'm not really interested in proselytizing or whatever about...
No more thoughts and prayers.
No. There's no reason to talk about it. If you're a caring human being, you already know what needs to be done, and we need to get it done on a level that protects people. There is only policy that protects us from massacre at this point, and anything other than putting in policy to protect us is just a delay of exactly that policy. We're just kicking the can down the road. So let's talk about what we can do, because me nor Kyle have been elected to office yet. That'll be fun.
Please don't write us in.
Yeah. We'll see if they let me in right after I just said I like to smoke Sprite bongs a second ago. But let's focus on what we can do about this, okay? Because here's the thing. Gun violence is always more than just the physical violence itself. It ripples through communities, and we can help to repair that damage as well. A few weeks ago in Buffalo, New York, a white supremacist murdered a bunch of community elders and hurt a bunch of other people at their local grocery store. In addition to the really obvious catastrophic damage from that, it also shut down the only local grocery store in that area, which was a staple for that community. And so the people who are there have not only experienced endless trauma, right? But now they don't even have food nearby.
They are
and many people
literal
don't.
Food desert.
Yeah. They were already a food desert, and now the single oasis is gone because they have to be shut down right now. And so, a lot of people don't have access to be able to go back and forth to other places to get food. They don't have the means or the time or perhaps even the physical ability to travel to other places to get it. So the community steps in to help. That's always the theme from this. The community is already stepping in to help even before tragedy happens. So when tragedy strikes, look to who's already doing the work. So one established organization
Man,
that
you just did a Mr. Rogers. In When Times Are Tough, look for the helpers. There's always helpers.
for sure,
It's so simple, but it's so true.
I just sat down and took off my Vans. It is. So one of these established organizations, one of the helpers that we can find that immediately pivoted into action was an organization called Feed Buffalo, who's a nonprofit community food pantry with healthy options, including halal food for Muslim families, which come to find out is part of the reason that organization existed at all. Is because when families who were Muslim who needed help literally couldn't find food that met, the requirements that they have for their, religion and community and the way that they live. And so Feed Buffalo was one that included healthy options and halal food. And they were already doing this work before this massacre took place. Like, we always want to point that out. But now Feed Buffalo really urgently needs resources because they're actively providing hot meals and food delivery, perishable items, expanding into toiletries, everything else, right? They're literally taking care of their community. They're ready for this. They knew what to do. They know how to take in what you can give them and turn them into something for the community. So Feed Buffalo is one of the 2 food banks that, just to make sure we're being really clear about credibility, because it's really important to know where your money's going in times like this. Feed Buffalo is one of the 2 food banks that the White House is actively directing people towards in that area. And so, as always, we want to just recommit and encourage you to the idea that people in your community are often already addressing problems on the ground. Even a little bit of privilege, even if you're a person who really struggles, even a small amount of privilege in your life. Maybe you're just a healthy human being who can walk everywhere or ride a bike or something. Just those little bits of privilege can blind you towards what other people need help with and how they're already being helped, because it may just not have come across your radar. In moments of crisis, like, those people who are already doing the work are best prepared to do more of the work faster. So Feed Buffalo set up a GoFundMe to take in larger donations. I saw that they took some really large ones from folks pretty quickly, and I gathered that's why they kind of stood up a GoFundMe, because they can take in donations, but I noticed they wanted to be able to take in larger dollar amounts. So you can find that link to their GoFundMe, and along with other ways to give them money to be involved to figure out how to help them out, at their website, feedbuffalo.org. I encourage you to make a donation if you can. And then also, another thing we always encourage you with, if you can find someone doing important work in their community and you can help them out in moments of crisis, the next step is to go back and look in your own community and find out who you've been overlooking, who's already doing this work, who needs preparation and help for when something else happens, when they need to be able to help their community, right? So look and find the types of folks who are already doing food pantry work, who are figuring out how to get food to people who actively need it. Kyle, anything before we go?
I just want to say thank you and much love to Feed Buffalo. My favorite thing about Buffalo ceased to be at the end of last year. So in the absence of the band, Every Time I Die, I am grateful that there is another instance of the Buffalo community just being rad and taking care of each other. So as always, that's kind of the lesson. Take care of each other. Look out for yourselves. Look out for your neighbors. Pick somebody up when they fall down in the pit. Comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. This has been Friday Heavy. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll grab a beer with you at the next tailgate in 2 weeks.
See ya. Go to tunedig.com or follow us on Instagram and Twitter for links to the new release, the playlist, and the organization that we talked about today.